In the last section, we started to wire up Passport and the Google strategy inside of our index.js file. Remember, for right now, we're going to put all of our Passport and authentication stuff directly into this file, but very shortly, we'll separate it out to a couple of different files and folders inside of our server project. Now, we had left things off saying that we needed to pass some additional configuration options to the Google strategy. Before we make use of the Google strategy, we have to give it two important options, a client ID and a client secret. This client ID and the client secret are provided to us directly from Google's OAuth service. Remember that when we went through our OAuth flow, we had said that we would take some user who's trying to visit auth/Google, and we would forward them on to Google, where they would then be asked to grant us permission to get at their profile. So when we take a user and just kind of like throw them over to Google, Google has to be able to identify where that user is coming from. They have to be able to say, oh, this user is coming from the guys who are putting together the Emaily application. So when the user grants permission for them to read the profile, we're going to send them back over to the Emaily people. In order for Google to be aware that our application exists and be able to make that type of connection, we have to sign up with the Google OAuth API. And so we essentially register our application and just tell Google, hey, we exist and we're going to have people who want to OAuth with our application. Now, signing up with the Google OAuth API is a little bit complicated, so let's start it right now and give ourselves a good bit of time to get through it. I'm going to create a new browser tab, and I'm going to navigate directly to console.developers.google.com. And I'll paste this inside of my code editor so you can see it nice and large. Okay, so there you go, console.developers.google.com. Okay, so once you navigate there, if you do not yet have a Google account, please at this point create an account with Google. It can be a total trash account. You don't have to use your personal one. Any Google account will do. When you come to this developer's console, you might see something that looks like what I see on the screen, but you might see something instead that says, hey, create your first project or something like that. And so that's exactly what we want to do right now. We want to generate a brand new project to use with our Google OAuth API. At present, I see this screen because I already have a couple of existing kind of sample projects inside of this account. So you're only going to see this stuff if you already have existing projects. Anyways, let's create a new one that'll be tied just to all the logic around this Emaily application that we're working on. So up at the drop down up here, I'll click it, and then on the far right hand side, I'm going to hit the plus button to create a new project. Now I get prompted to add a project name. I'm going to give it the name of Emaily-dev, like so. And I do recommend you put -dev on there because we're going to make a second key a little bit, or a second project a little bit later on. Okay, so after that, I'll click the create button. And then this is really important. Let me pause you right now. Really important. When you click on create right there, it does not instantly create your project. Instead, it starts the process of creating a new project. And very briefly, you'll see a spinner up here in your notifications area as Google is creating that new project. So I'm still looking at my previous one. And I have to make sure that I click on the drop down and then select the new project, Emaily-dev, that I just created. Now that's only relevant if you have other projects already in here. If you have a completely fresh account, chances are it'll do the right thing. Basically, at the end of the day, just make sure that you see Emaily-dev up in the nav bar up here. That's what you want to see. Okay, so now that we've created this new project, we need to do two separate things. And again, this is where I said that the sign up stuff is a little bit complicated. So let's just get through these two things. The first one is going to be to enable the Google OAuth API. And then secondly, we're going to create a brand new API credential. So first, we're going to enable the Google OAuth API. I'm going to click on Enable API up here. And then it gives me a list of all the different APIs that we have access to inside of this account. For us, we want to get access to specifically the OAuth API. And so you can search for OAuth, and you'll notice, very helpfully, and I say that entirely sarcastically, it says no results for OAuth. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is definitely one of the things that you're in this course for, because this is really not clear to outside beginners at all. When we want to sign up for the OAuth API, we actually want to sign up for the Google Plus API. So search for Google Plus. You'll see a result of Google Plus API. Click on that, and then on the page that pops up, you're going to see something that says, oh yeah, access user data with OAuth 2.0. So in my opinion, this API right here is totally buried because you can't search for OAuth. So hey, what good is it? Anyways, I'm just throwing that out there, just a little bit of a headache. So make sure you're looking at Google Plus API, and then you'll click on Enable at the top. And then it'll take just a second to turn it on. And any second. Okay, so we're good to go. Now, just enabling the API is not enough. Remember, we also have to generate an API credential. So now this API is enabled in our account, but to access our account and the APIs that are enabled inside of it, we have to make a credential. So you can either click on the Create Credentials message that pops up here, or just click on Credentials on the left-hand nav. So when we click on Credentials, you'll be prompted with a window that says, oh yeah, Create Credential. You can click on the button, and then we want the option that says OAuth Client ID. OAuth Client ID. So the fun is not over yet. We're not done yet. The fun's not over yet. Still some other stuff, some hoops to jump through. Yes, this process is just crazy town. So in order to get a client ID, we have to set up a product name for our consent screen. So what is a consent screen? Well, remember, whenever we take this user who's attempting to sign in and we kick them over to Google, Google is going to ask the user if they grant permission to our application. And so when the user gets prompted to grant us permission, that is the consent screen. That is the thing that says, hey, these people are trying to get access to your account information. Is that okay? And it'll have our account name on it and maybe our picture and some other stuff on there. And so that's what this consent screen is. So we'll click on Configure Consent Screen. And then we've got a couple different things to fill out in here. For right now, the only thing we have to fill out is the product name. So we will put emaily-dev in here. And then we don't have to put anything else in here. Everything else is optional. So let's click Save. And then we can select the application type that we're trying to create. So we're making a web application. So we'll click on Web Application. And then we get a couple other options to fill out inside of here as well. First off is the name. We'll leave that as Web Client 1. We get authorized JavaScript origins. And then we also have authorized redirect URIs. Now, for right now, we're going to just put some values in here, and we're not going to talk a lot about what's going on with them, okay? Now, I guarantee we will come back. We'll talk about what these two settings are that we're filling out, but we'll do that a little bit later. So first, for the authorized JavaScript origin, we're going to say http://localhost:5000/*. And then we're going to put the exact identical thing. I've got a typo somewhere in here. What is it? Oh, it doesn't like the /*. We want just localhost 5000 on this one. My apologies. On the second one, that's where we want the /*. Much better. Okay. So first one, localhost 5000. Second one, localhost 5000/*. Now, like I said, we will come back. We'll talk about what these things are for at a later point in this OAuth flow. For right now, let's click on Create. Do make sure you get the little dots on there. You might have to click on the Create button twice. Now, after we finish that up, we get this nice pop-up, and it tells us a client ID and a client secret. So these are the two little identifying tokens that we need to get access to. So for right now, we're going to copy the first one. We're going to go back over to our code editor. And for right now, I'm going to just paste it in here. I'm going to label it as client ID. And I'm going to do the same thing with the second one as well. So I'm going to copy the client secret. I'll label it as client secret, and I'll paste that one too. Now we're going to make use of both of these in just a second. The reason we're copy pasting them over here for right now is that we're going to take a break right now, and just in case you want to stop watching and don't want to have to pull this window back up, I want to make sure you've got a reference to them right here. So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back in just a second. We'll make use of the client ID and the client secret at that point. So I'll see you in just a second.